We may not be seeing the big passing numbers that we saw last year, but don't be fooled. This is still a quarterback league. No team knows that better than the Jets, Bills, and Chiefs. And Eric had home shorts and shells column this week. He talked about how those teams lost in big part because of poor quarterback play. And Eric, let's start with the Jets. The much maligned Mark Sanchez, another terrible game in this game against a very good 49ers defense. But we don't see Tim Tebow coming out there quarterback. And Rex Ryan after the game still said Mark Sanchez is their quarterback. I mean, is that going to be the answer for the rest of the season? Just leave Sanchez in there? Are they ever going to go to Tebow at some point?
Oh, how telling is it that that you wouldn't pull Sanchez for Tebow during this game? And how bad is Sanchez and how bad is Tebow? Tebow they see is obviously a trick play specialist, and they don't have the same view of him being able to carry the team that the Broncos did to make the playoffs last year. Obviously, the Broncos traded him, so they had something in mind when they did that move. There's just really no hope at this position because I think Sanchez, he's a game guy, he's a fighter, he's always going to give you top effort, but there's only so much he can do, and that inconsistency is always going to be a problem.
And it's not going to help either if he doesn't have Santonio Holmes for an extended period of time. Had a pretty severe foot injury at the end of that game. You go over to Buffalo. At some points in this game against the Patriots, Ryan Fitzpatrick looked pretty darn good. A couple of strikes to Scott Chandler for touchdowns, Donald Jones as well. They built a nice lead, and then the wheels came off. He threw some bad interceptions downfield, made some questionable decisions as well. And you look at the Bills, clearly the team wanted to upgrade the backup quarterback's position. DeVaris Jackson's not ready yet. He's been inactive. I don't know if anybody wants Tyler Thigpen going in there. I mean, Ryan Fitzpatrick gets the extension. Is he the answer for them the long-term rest of the year if they want to make the playoffs?
Well, clearly any team that allows a 21-7 lead turn into a 42-21 deficit has problems on defense. But I'm also going to argue that they have problems at quarterback too, and the inconsistent up and down, hot and cold play. You mentioned the hot. There was plenty of cold too. 2 interceptions in each half. We saw it last year. Good the first half of the season, then terrible down the stretch for Fitzpatrick. It's been the story his entire career. This is not going to change. This is the dilemma they went through when they gave him the extension. Ultimately, they decided this guy was good. He was a cerebral leader. I think they're going to have to look quarterback in the draft. I believe this is his last year of starting. And like you said, the other options aren't that appealing.
It's been a long time since Buffalo's used an early pick in the draft on a quarterback, so we'll see if this is the year they finally do it, especially if they don't make the playoffs. They need to kind of change things up there at the top. Now you go to Kansas City. The Chiefs, such a strange team in that AFC West because a lot of people sleeper pick for this year, and a lot of it was hinging on Matt Cassel. Could he play the way we saw 2 years ago? And boy, did he look bad today against San Diego. Tons of turnovers for that whole Chiefs team today. I mean, what's the situation there with Kansas City? Brady Quinn doesn't seem to be the answer. Ricky Stanzi, what do you do there if you're Romeo Crennel?
Now, granted, the offensive line took a big hit. Rodney Hudson, his center, went out before this game, so he was working with a little bit of a shell crew, not much depth up front. The pressure was there, but he's just a guy. I don't think he can do much beyond the intermediate passing, and there's only so much he can do. There were parts this season where I thought Cassel looked really good, had some great throws that he made, but throwing the ball down the field when the game's close. He had a couple late to Dwayne Bowe that mattered, but the game had already been decided at that point. Cassel hasn't made enough plays in the passing game, gotten McCluster and Baldwin involved in those tight ends that were so good 2 years ago. So, I'm just surprised that this offense hasn't taken the next step. A quarter of the way through the season, all three of these guys, I think we can start to make a judgment about how they can play. Doesn't seem like any of the three are in the future plans of each of those teams.
And as you mentioned with the Chiefs, Bills, and Jets, all three of those teams coming into the season look like, okay, potential sleepers. Maybe they can make a run at the wild card if the quarterback position is stable and consistent. And so far, especially in week 4 for all three of those guys, it didn't look well for them, and it doesn't look like either of those teams are going to be able to make it to the playoffs, especially if this quarterback play continues. To read the rest of Eric Shorts and Shell's column, be sure to check out our website at profootballweekly.com.